A new study just dropped that honestly did not surprise me much at all. Not because the research was obvious, but because it confirmed in like academic language exactly what I get to watch unfold in my therapy room every single week. So, the University of Georgia published this month what they found. Childhood trauma, abuse, neglect, loss, instability doesn't just create depression and anxiety in adulthood. Those things then quietly erode the quality of your adult relationships, your ability to communicate, to show affection, to handle conflict without shutting down or exploding, to feel satisfied in a relationship at all. So I want to break down what this actually means for you because most coverage of this particular study is going to miss, I think, the clinical piece entirely. So what ACEs actually are. ACEs stands for Adverse Childhood Experiences. The original ACE study in the 90s looked at 10 different categories: physical, emotional, or sexual abuse, physical or emotional neglect, household dysfunction, like a parent with mental illness, addiction, or incarceration, domestic violence in the home, divorce, or loss of a parent. And here is what most people don't know. You do not need a dramatic single event trauma for ACEs to affect you. The research includes emotional neglect, the absence of attunement, warmth, and safety as an adverse experience, which means a home that looked fine from the outside, maybe even perfect, can still have left a mark. So here's a key point. ACEs aren't just about what happened to you. They're also about what didn't happen. Safety, attunement, the love that should have been there and was not. So how many of you would say that you grew up in a fine, quote unquote, home, but maybe something still felt off? So 4 ways it shows up in adult relationships. The research identified specific pathways, and I want to walk through 4 of them because I think at least one of these is going to land for everyone here watching. So communication breaks down, not necessarily yelling or fighting, often the opposite, shutting down, going quiet, struggling to say what you actually need, choosing silence over conflict because your nervous system learned that speaking up was not safe. 2, affection becomes complicated. For some people, physical or emotional affection feels uncomfortable to give or even to receive. If warmth was not modeled in your home, or if it came with strings attached, your body learned to be guarded around it. You might love deeply and still struggle to let love in. 3, conflict becomes a threat, not just a conversation. This is a big one. When conflict in childhood meant danger, things escalating, someone leaving, someone getting hurt, your adult nervous system treats relationship conflict in the same way. You either brace for catastrophe or you do anything to avoid the conflict in the first place. By the way, neither one leads to resolution. 4, loneliness lives inside of the relationship. This one in particular really gets me. The study found that adults with higher ACE scores report more loneliness, even when they're in relationships, because it isn't about proximity, closeness, like physically, right? Geographically, proximity. It has everything to do with safety. You can be sitting next to someone on a couch and still feel unreachable. You can be in a relationship and still feel completely alone. That's not a failing of the relationship. It's often the echo of something that is a lot older, something from the past. Here's what I want you to hear, because research like this can feel really heavy if we stop just at the problem. The same study pointed to something important. Improving communication skills as a couple can actually mitigate some of these effects, which means the patterns are not fixed. You're not locked in and screwed. The nervous system is not locked in. Neuroplasticity is real. And clinically, this also tracks with everything that I see. With the people who come and work with me, the people who make the most meaningful change are not the ones who had the easiest childhoods. They're the ones who got curious about the pattern, who stopped blaming themselves for responses that were never really about the present moment. And for the folks who did the work, not just cognitively, but in their bodies and in their relationships. The research is not saying that you were screwed or doomed or jacked up by your childhood. It is saying that your childhood is still speaking. You now have the ability to respond to it differently than you ever could as a child. So what does healing look like? Name the pattern, not the person. Stop calling yourself bad at relationships? Start asking yourself, what did I learn about relationships when I was small? Those are very different questions with totally different answers. Number 2, bring the body into it. Because the ACEs live in the body, in the nervous system's threat response, healing that only happens in the mind has a ceiling, right? You can only go so far. Somatic work, thalage, IFS, attachment-based therapy, these approaches get underneath the cognitive layer to where the pattern is actually living. And then 3, use relationships that you are in right now as part of your healing. A safe relationship with a therapist, a partner, a trusted person is not just the context for your healing. It's part of the mechanism. Your nervous system learned its patterns in relationship, and it updates in relationships too. Your childhood shaped you. It was never supposed to sentence you. The fact that you're curious enough to be watching this, that is already part of the work. So just to recap here, new research confirms childhood trauma shapes adult relationship patterns through depression, anxiety, and loneliness. It shows up in communication, affection, conflict, and a sense of loneliness even inside relationships. Patterns are not permanent. The nervous system updates, especially in safe relational context. And then healing means naming the pattern, working at the body level, using relationships also as part of the process. We are physiologically wired to need other people, to be in community, to belong, to be accepted. This does not work if you go and hermit yourself on an island. If you recognize your relationship in any of what I described today, the shutting down, the loneliness inside of the connection or inside of a relationship, the conflict that always feels like too much, that's not necessarily a you problem. It is a pattern, and a pattern can change. And if you're in Florida and you want to do that work, go to sunshinecitycounseling.com, book a free consult with me. Link is in the description. If you're not ready, save this video. Share it with someone that maybe it could help, because sometimes the most important thing is just finally having a name for it. Until next time, I'll see you guys later.